Welcome to the Ecstatic Woman Summit, how to reconnect with your body and your sexuality. And we are so excited. We're so excited to have Kali here with us today, joining and sharing her medicine and magic in the world and with all of us. I know you're committed you're a facilitator and you're committed to women remembering their power, their magic, reconnecting with their bodies. And I know you do a lot of work around womb and restoring that connection with the womb space. So can you please introduce yourself, what kind of medicine you share with the world? Who are you in the world? So we're so excited to get to know you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm absolutely thrilled, and it's a great privilege to have this window on the world and to speak to thousands of women. So I am Kali Satyagraha, and I live just outside Cape Town, South Africa. And I guess my calling to work with women began when I became a mother of a female-bodied being. I have a 21-year-old daughter, and I felt at the time that I was very disconnected from my body. I was very disconnected from the feminine, and I knew there was a lot more to being in a female body than what I was currently experiencing. And I really wanted to give my daughter the transmission of what it is to be a powerful, embodied, conscious woman, that I didn't know how to do that. And so it set me on a path. It was my commitment to myself and my daughter that I wanted to model that for her, not just talk about it, but actually be it, embody it. And as luck would have it, I came across the most incredible non-dual teachers. I ended up following the path of Advaita Tantra. And along the way, learned about how to be in my body, how to heal the trauma that was blocking my ability to feel my body and its beautiful innate wisdom, because there was a lot blocking that, and how to awaken my feminine sexual energy in a way that wasn't objectified, in a way that wasn't limited by what the media has told us our sexuality is, what our body should be like. I wanted to break free of all of that. and so it was my daughter. It really was her that was my motivation. And that became my path over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Such a powerful journey, especially when you say, bringing somebody into this world with a feminine body. So it almost feels like that's the lineage mother's work that you keep sharing with so many beautiful women all over the globe.
Yeah. I'm very passionate about waking up women. I work with men as well, but primarily I work with women. And the reason why I'm so passionate about working with women is I have a belief that when women wake up, the family wakes up. And when the family wakes up, the community wakes up. And that leads to the country waking up and the planet waking up. So it ultimately begins with her. She creates everything. And so it's her that must wake up if we want to create the world we want to live in going forward. She is the creatrix, and it is her responsibility. And when she wakes up, there's a spontaneous awakening of all of life. And so it's almost like we don't have to really focus on anything else. We just focus on women, and the rest happens spontaneously.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's the alchemy, the divine intelligence behind the unity, right?
Yes, yes.
Can you share a little bit more about the medicine and the work that you do in the world? Because I know you do so many different things with, being a breath facilitator, a dance facilitator, and then the tantrika and the priestess. So can you give people a little bit more of a taste of the work that you do in the world?
All my work is embodied. So I don't teach anything that I don't already know from my own direct lived experience. So if I haven't experienced something through my own body, I don't teach it. So this is my reference point. This is the portal through which I access all wisdom, all the teachings that comes through my own body. And I've learned everything I need is within me. So it's very different to the way we've been brought up, where we learn to rely on books and external sources of information. But for me, the body is the portal. It is the oracle. It is pretty much the unconscious made into form. And so if we want to bring the unconscious into consciousness so that we can become sovereign and that we can become agents in our lives, with choice, real choice, then we need to heal the body. And so I work a lot with the nervous system. I work a lot with early developmental trauma that blocks our access to our innate wisdom. And so it's very much about healing those early developmental stages, bringing patterns to peace, unconscious patterns, beliefs, identifications, anything that no longer serves us. We work through the body, so it's always through the body. And then the mind can post-rationalize it later, but I don't work with the mind. So I work with a lot of embodiment, practices such as movement and guided meditations. And this is why dance has become such an important modality for me, because in dance, we're not using the head, we're not speaking, we're not using our frontal, neocortex. We're actually using the whole body. So the whole body's intelligence gets activated when we start moving consciously. And so I guess my deep interest is in the body, in the nervous system, in how it works with the ego and with the mind, and ultimately how the body is this masculine and feminine energies that, when in balance, are making love to each other all the time just so that we can take the next breath. But when they're not in balance, when we're in what I call junior masculine and junior feminine energy that's unparented, so there are these little orphans inside us that haven't had wise elders, haven't had the transmissions from the previous generation. We've had to find that ourselves. When we grow those energies up inside us and when we bring them into union in the heart, the hieros gamas, the inner marriage of the two, that's when we become powerful human beings. That's when we really can create the world that we would love to live in, not just as women, but as men too. So it's very much that we all access those inner feminine and masculine energies that are not gender-based. They are perhaps, we are the wisdom keepers of the feminine as female-bodied beings, you could say, and men, masculine wisdom keepers. But ultimately, we all have both of those energies inside us. And I think we're reaching the era of the heart where they must come into balance, and they must also grow up and become mature versions of themselves, and then raise the little children inside, the little girl and the little boy inside us, to be healthy children. So I guess my child, coming right back full circle to my daughter, that was my motivation, was to be able to parent her in a way that was healthy. So yeah, that's my deep interest, is embodiment. I'm not very interested in books, lots of concepts and jargon, and just talk to me, the body.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's so profound. Thank you so much for bringing this medicine. A little bit of a technical piece. We have a little bit of a freezing sometimes, but that's the Cape Town. They had the power outages. I just want to put it in space. But what Kali is bringing is so important today that we are so committed to having a medicine here, even though we have those little delays. So let's just roll with us and trust in the magic. Yes. And when you say about the body, right, and you started working with the body and you started remembering and awakening to that body. So for somebody who is watching, who is so curious and who is so open, and you connecting to that motherhood experience, how can a woman start building that relationship with the body?
Yeah, that's a great question, how to start, because we talk about embodiment and people go, but what do you mean? What does embodiment actually mean? And what I mean by it is starting to feel all the emotions that we have put away for later. So usually emotions that society says are negative. So anger, for example, especially as women, we taught that we can be sad, but we can't really be angry. You know, good girls don't get angry. And so we push that anger down. Also in the spiritual world, there's a lot of emphasis on being happy and ecstatic. But actually, for me, it's about embodying and living the full range of what it is to be human. Everything from deep grief right up to, you know, exquisite ecstasy and everything in between. That's what we're here for. We're here to live and feel it all. And so we have to start being prepared to feel, and not just feel the emotions we want to feel or we feel familiar with and comfortable with, but all the emotions. And to do that, we've got to start dropping our awareness from the head, because most of our awareness is from the neck up and then pretty much to the left, you know, very imbalanced. And I often energetically see our bodies as being tiny and big heads, and that the body is just this life support system for our heads, right? So we've been conditioned to really, really be in our mind, and that chattering monkey mind, and not to notice what we actually feeling. And when we do feel, very often we push it down. We just concrete over those emotions. And when we do that, we concrete over all our emotions. You can't just concrete over some and not others. So once you start pushing those emotions down, we start feeling less, we start to feel not quite alive, a little bit numbed out, like we're just going through our lives on automatic. And we know this is not where we would line. So the first thing we have to do is be prepared to feel. We have to be prepared, and that takes courage. And then the second thing is, as women, we need to drop down into our wombs. Many women, even if they've had 3 or 4 children, the first time they actually take their awareness into the womb and word I'm trying to think of is when you want to inhabit, to inhabit the womb with awareness. That might be the first time they've ever done it if we do a guided meditation to drop down into the womb. And I've had women cry and say, I've had 4 or 5 children and I've never actually inhabited my own. I've just been numbed out there. So again, going into the womb space, we store a lot of our sexual trauma and wounding in the womb. And so that's another reason why we avoid going there. But in order to start being embodied, in order to have this body as a channel through which wisdom can flow effortlessly, we've got to go through all those difficult emotions, trauma, wounding, social conditioning and imprinting. We've got to go and empty out all of that. So it's an unraveling process. And as we do that, we start to remember who we really are. And I love that word remember because it has in it membranes. It's like in the membranes of our body, we store all the information record. And so once we begin to start feeling, and once we're prepared to feel everything, then we start having access to this body and to the incredible wisdom that is inside this body. And then we can start to rely on it as an immaculate channel through which wisdom comes. We can ask any questions, we can set any vision for ourselves, any dreams through our bodies once they've been cleared of a lot of the past patterning and trauma. So for me, the body is everything. It contains the entire cosmic reality is in this body. Yeah. And when we start to recognize that, it's like, wow, it's all inside me. So yeah, embodiment, it's a process. It's not a sudden thing. It's iterative, takes time to develop the capacity to be able to feel. And I'm very keen that we do it slowly. I'm not one of these that says, let's go fast. In my experience, the nervous system loves to be slow and progressive. And so it's a process of clearing out and getting back to the essential self, the true self.
Yeah, I love this. And I love how you're bringing, in a way of tantric way of looking at things, for wholeness and unity of polarity as well here, right? When you talk about that highest frequency and expression of ecstasy, to get access to that, you have to go all the way down into the lowest levels of grief and pain, fear and sorrow and all of that emotion. So it almost feels like, you know, that's the balance, that's the unity between the two that can unlock all of this for you. So for somebody who is
the body is the bridge.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I was just going to finish by saying, no, that's okay. I was just going to add to what you were saying, is for me, the body is the bridge between heaven and earth. The body is that connection between spirit and matter. And so, yeah, we can go up with meditation and be transcendent and go into the deep masculine of the void, emptiness, just pure space. And then we must also come down into the body and feel everything, and one not inferior or better than the other. In Tantra, we don't have any hierarchy of good, bad, better, worse, you know, more spiritual, less spiritual. The body is as important as the emptiness, the nothingness. They're both equally important, and they must be together and balanced at all times.
Yeah, beautiful. I love this. A little bit of practical question, maybe some people are afraid to go into those painful, griefy, sad, scary places. And you know, we as a collective are so used to numbing ourselves with, you know, coffee, alcohol, social media, smoking. Like, we've been so good in numbing and running away from those heavier, more dense emotions. Like, how would one give themselves permission, but also know that it's okay to go there? It's okay to start feeling those feelings.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question, because again, I would emphasize that those emotions, the grief, the pain, the sadness, confusion, jealousy, all those emotions that, you know, are not socially acceptable often, they are important and valuable, because often within those there is a gem, there is a diamond, there is something ready, a pearl ready to be reclaimed, if we prepare to go there. And in Tantra we say the only way through is through. You have to go through those emotions, and very often then the teaching or the gem, there's something there to be retrieved. And because in Tantra we don't believe those feelings are any worse or better than feeling ecstasy and bliss, there's just, you know, there's no hierarchy of feelings. We say everything welcome. So if you go and sit with a non-dual teacher, there's a welcoming of those emotions. Whereas in some spaces it's seen as, oh, well, you're not terribly spiritual if you know, crying or falling apart. But actually we say, that is beautiful, that is welcome, this is the beginning of healing, is to start feeling, you know. So I think when the invitation is all is welcome, every part of you is welcome, and there's no part of you that is better or worse than any other part of you. They're all sacred, everything holy, holy, holy. I think that's when people feel safe enough to let go and to start unraveling. Funnily enough, many people
Okay, here we are, we're back, right? So you cut out by saying funny enough, many people. So we can ask our editing team
to start that
jump.
again.
Yeah. So yeah.
So many people don't only repress negative emotions and what's seen as not so spiritual, but we also often repress our joyous emotions, our happiness. You know how sometimes we can be a bit suspicious of someone who's always happy, right? No, you shouldn't be so happy. And we've grown up with this rather Calvinistic, no pain, no gain kind of attitude, and we've got to work to be spiritual, you know, and so often we don't see just our joyousness, our playfulness, our childlike spontaneity is also repressed very often as we become super responsible parents, and you know, we've got to go out into the world and work, and we don't allow ourselves to just be silly and light and funny. And so we also repress some of our positive emotions. Interestingly, we're quite perverse as humans.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's either you're feeling or you're numbing. And then if you're feeling, it means you're feeling all of the range. And then if you're numbing, like that's numbing everything at once as well.
Yes, exactly. And it is that existential reaction to living in a consensus reality that's not supportive of the human nervous system. I mean, we are living in quite an insane matrix right now. And so we either freeze, which is the numbing out, or we get super fighty. We fight and, you know, we're fighting with the world. We're angry all the time. Or we flight. We just run away from life. We just, you know, hide behind working hard or Netflix, you know, just numbing out again. So there's that. And then there's another one, which for women is important, is fawn. So there's freeze, flight, fight. There's also fawning. And fawning has become a learned behavior of how to stay safe. Like if we fawn to people, then they won't, you know, reject us, and we can belong, and we can, you know, people will like us. So there's also fawning, which is quite, you know, it's quite common in women, and it's a learned behavior to stay safe.
Yeah, it's like coping mechanism. Yeah, beautiful. And when you bring, you know, when you bring this perspective of unity and tantric approach and non-duality, and in a way of not creating hierarchy around what's good and bad, I really connect to also another piece that you are bringing in here about that unity of feminine and masculine. So can you talk a little bit about how important it is to have both when we're talking about, you know, connection and reconnection and building relationship from that place?
Yeah, so, you know, and healing come from the word whole. Whole is the root word of heal and health. And so to be whole, we have to bring the polarities together into an integrated, unified whole. And so the way I unpack the feminine and the masculine, I do it in a very essential and simple way. And that is that the deep masculine is just pure space, full of nothing. So it's a bit of a paradox that it's full, but of nothing. And yet, and this is where I differ to a lot of spiritual teachers, it's not detached. Because often that's what we begin to conclude. Oh, if it's nothing, then it's detached. It's detached from life. But I say it's actually full of presence, lion-hearted, shining like the sun presence. That's the deep masculine. And when it's there, we know it's there. And the feminine needs that holding for her to feel everything. She's got to feel everything that life creates. Everything, the good, the bad, the tragic, the magnificent, the magical. She's got to feel it all. That's her job. And so for her to feel it, she's got to be held in presence. She goes into one of those modes, collapsing, numbing out, freezing, fighting. So she needs to be held by his loving presence. But it's a presence that has no agenda, doesn't want to fix her, doesn't want to solve anything, just shining and present. So that's the one aspect of the deep masculine. for her to feel it all through her body, through her womb and her heart. She feels everything. And the way a man has a womb too, it's actually his testicles. So when a man wants to access his inner feminine, he must take his awareness and draw it into his testicles, and that's where his felt intelligence resides in his body. And so she can feel everything with his presence. And so that's her first part. She needs to feel it all. The second part of the deep feminine is she needs to translate what she's feeling into a directive. So when there needs to be action in order to optimize and balance life, she needs to speak what action is needed. And she needs to take it from emotional language into tangible, concrete, masculine language. So once she feels a movement is required to balance life and death, she speaks it clean and clear to her masculine, whether it's an outer masculine or her own inner masculine. And she gives that directive, tangible, concrete, clean and clear. She says, this is what's needed to optimize life in this moment. And then the second part of the masculine kicks in, which is action. And he goes like a bow from just a skilled archer's, his bow, like an arrow, straight to the target. And it is skillful and effortless. And she's like, oh, wow, you are so skillful, masculine. I mean, just look at you. You just did so well. And he goes, he's so happy that how skilled he is in his action. And then when she doesn't need him to act, he goes back to resting as lion-hearted golden presence. She goes back to feeling everything. The minute she notices another movement, she speaks it clean and clear to him. He executes. So she decides the what, he decides the how. She does not interfere in how he does it. That's that kind of hen-picking, nagging. Yes. No, she trusts him to execute immaculately. So when I say he, she, I'm talking about them as these energies. I'm not really speaking about gender. We're just using this as a way of understanding, because essentially they're one energy, but they have this ability to work as two. They have this ability to have this dynamic tension between them so that life can keep on making more of itself. And so very simply, that's how the masculine and feminine make love. He holds her, she feels everything. And as he's holding her, he's looking at all she's creating and going, my God, you are just so beautiful. And she's like, thank you, because she can't see herself. She can't see herself because she is form. So she needs him to reflect her beauty back to her. That's why women say, does my bum look big in this, when they're wearing, something, and they ask, man, and he says, I've told you 1,000 times you're beautiful, and she doesn't know it because she can't see herself. So, as just a little anecdote, but she needs to be seen and appreciated by him and held in this presence. The minute he detaches, she collapses. She needs that. So we as women need to develop our inner masculine so that he is there to hold us as we feel everything. There we go.
Okay, so where we stopped is the woman needs her inner masculine to hold her.
Okay, I'll start from there again. Sorry about that. That was just a changeover with the power going out. So for women, it's really important that we develop our own inner masculine, so we stop being dependent on men. Because when we meet man or woman, whoever our sexual preference is, when we meet our partner, full, as a full woman, we don't have that codependency. So we develop our inner masculine, who holds in loving presence our beautiful feminine, who's feeling everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the magnificent, everything. So she's being held by him. She feels everything. She is then able to communicate clean and clear what action is needed. He executes with immaculate, skillful, single-pointed focus, hits the target effortlessly every time. And then they go back to her feeling everything by him. So if we can develop that internally inside ourselves, what starts to happen is, first of all, we are embodied, fully embodied. So we feeling the whole of life and knowing exactly what is required, balancing and optimizing it. And we're able to act with meaning and not in a way that's exhausting. It's when we're not acting with her direction, we're just acting from our heads, and usually that's fear-based. We get onto this treadmill and we just running around like chickens with our heads cut off. And we get exhausted. And that kind of action that's not directed from her sensitivity and her sensibility is ultimately destructive. So what I call junior masculine energy that's running the planet right now. And this is why we are destroying the very planet that sustains life. It's because we're not coming from her first. She needs to direct the whole show. And I'm not talking women, I'm talking the feminine in men and in women. And then when we act, we only act when required. For the rest, we rest, we play. You don't need to be busy all the time. That's the most amazing thing, is space opens up for us to breathe and to connect and to be intimate with each other and to feel each other. So often we treat each other as a means to an end. We just objectify people, and they're just a means to an end, and that's it. We're not actually feeling each other. So for me, the greatest revolution that can happen on the planet is for all humanity to connect to the feeling body, the feminine, which needs to be held in presence, in mindfulness by the deep masculine. And then the real fun starts to happen when those two start to make love inside us. And then the whole of life is lovemaking. Everything can be lovemaking. Washing the dishes can be lovemaking.
I love that. This is so fun. This is beautiful. And this is so profound, because this is just so liberating, just to understand how much power we hold within ourselves. But do you have, let's say, a practice where people can start practicing, or maybe connecting to that inner masculine, inner feminine, so we get that experience for people who are watching?
Yes, I love that, because that, as you know, is my favorite thing, is to do it in the body. We can talk about it forever, but until you actually experience it as a direct lived experience, it's just theory. And especially for men, our male-bodied beings, they struggle to feel. I mean, women struggle to feel, and we're naturally wired to feel. It's very, very difficult to get into feeling, especially if there's a lot of trauma around the heart and around our sexuality. So I've got actually 3 little micro practices that I would love to share with you, because they are very quick, they're very easy. You could do them every single day, and if you did, they would make a profound difference to how you move in the world and how you experience the world. And they're simple, but they're not simplistic. Simplistic being dumbed down, and simple being just stripped to the essence. So that they're powerful because they're stripped to their essential truth. And so the first one is to experience the deep masculine, that empty presence that I've spoken about. The second one is to access the feminine, the felt intelligence of the body. And the last one is to integrate the two through these 3 very, very simple little practices. So should we do them together?
Yes, let's do them. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. So I'll describe it, and then just for a couple of minutes, we'll do it together, and I'll indicate when we bring it to a close. So the first one, we're going to close our eyes, and we're going to breathe in, and with very relaxed arms. So don't make the arms stiff. Just keep them very soft. So we're going to breathe in, and then as we breathe in with our eyes closed, we're going to raise our arms up high above our heads without straining, so only going as high as is comfortable. And as we get to the top, we're going to imagine that we are grabbing some blue sky, clear blue sky. So we grab it in our hands, and then we're going to bring it down. And with our hands, we're going to wash it through the whole body. So imagine that as your hands move down over your body, you can touch your body. Imagine that you are bathing yourself in clear blue sky energy, and your cells are drinking up all this energy. So you breathe out as you bring your hands down, and then at the end, we would imagine, I'm sitting, so I'm going to press this energy into the desk that I'm sitting next to. But if you were standing, you would press the excess energy into the ground. So let's do it again a few more times in our own time, breathing in, raising soft arms up high above our shoulders. When we get to the top without any straining, we grab some blue sky energy. And as the arms come down, we begin to touch our bodies very gently, just this loving touch. And we are transmitting blue sky energy throughout the whole body. And every cell is drinking this blue sky energy up. And then we just ground the excess into the earth. So let's do one more. And just staying with our eyes closed, notice the quality of the field around us, and notice the quality inside our body. And do you notice anything, any subtle changes? Anything you notice, Olya, as you rest here?
I feel more centered. I feel like my energy is more towards my core, and I feel more density.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so you can feel your body more, and yet it's quiet and centered.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very peaceful. Yeah.
Very peaceful. It's actually, if you do this exercise with a group of people and you do it for much longer, we've just done it, just a little taster of it. It's actually quite difficult to get people out of the meditation. They'll just stay there. And I feel this is the quality that the gurus who sat in caves, for 7 years, they would just sit still. It was this field that they tapped into, this field of deep peace, stillness, silence, quiet. And this is the masculine that we long for, that's not really around because it's all so busy and doing, and it's not this beautiful, quiet presence. And when it's here, the feminine just starts to blossom, and she starts to open, and as she opens, she's available to be penetrated by his presence to her depth. And the more he penetrates her with his consciousness, the more she blossoms, the more she's creating all of life. And so for me, this is the starting point. If you want to feel, first we've got to bring in this beautiful, quiet presence. It's the container within which she can feel. So always begin with the masculine. If you're finding you're feeling a lot and you're going through some very big emotions and it's turbulent, just do this exercise, bringing down the blue sky energy. And I've got some beautiful music. I can give it to you for your listeners, your viewers, to practice this too. It's really designed to help us drop even more deeply into this blue spaciousness.
Beautiful. Yes, I love it.
So that's the first little micro practice. 3 minutes a day, and your inner deep masculine will start to come online, and it will really change your capacity to feel what you're feeling in each moment. And then to start accessing the feminine, the felt wisdom of the body, the sensed intelligence of the body, there are these little micro practices that help us to access her. And the first one is to drop backwards a little bit. So there's a habit, the way we've been conditioned is to push forward. You know, we're very future focused. We're always in the future thinking about what's happening tomorrow, really here in the present. And there's a way that our eyes also push forwards. You know, so there's this kind of forward movement, which is this masculine action that we're very comfortable with because this is how we've been for very long. So if we start to actually drop backwards, just a little, if you're driving your car, instead of being where you normally sit, just sit a little bit backwards. The minute you drop backwards, something softens. Can you feel that?
Yes.
It's like just a very subtle softening. And as I start to drop back, my heart also becomes more available. I notice there's more space for my heart rather than sort of leaning forward and being sort of hyper vigilant. By just dropping back, my body gets the message to relax, and that my heart can open, my yoni can open. And in fact, yoni being womb in Sanskrit. So another way to also open the womb is to open the lips, just to let the lips be very softly open, because as the mouth opens of the mouth, the lips of the yoni, the mouth of the yoni also opens. And we tend to clench here, right? Clench. A lot of people have sore jaws because they're tensing. So if we open the mouth, let the jaw be a little bit relaxed and open, immediately the yoni opens. So dropping back, opening the mouth, heart starts to open. Yoni starts to come online, starts to open, especially as we've got the masculine holding. So we drop back, and then again, closing the eyes, we drop in, because again, our tendency is to be outer, looking out all the time. So we want to go back and in, and then drop the awareness down from the head all the way down through the heart, through the belly, through the womb, and imagine that your feet have roots growing down into the earth, right down into the center of the earth. And then every time we breathe up, we can breathe up through this root system. We can breathe up golden, liquid, radiant, molten energy from the center of the earth, and we can fill our legs and the bowl of the pelvis, the womb space, with this golden, radiant prana that comes from the center of the earth. And then we can even draw it right up into the heart and fill the whole body with this golden, luminous energy, feminine energy, life force energy. And so it's this dropping slightly back, going inwards, and then downwards, and connecting with the womb of the earth, and then using the breath to bring that energy up and fill the whole body with this golden energy. So just for a few seconds, let's breathe that way, bringing up this golden energy through our root system, up through the feet, up through the legs. You can even imagine that you have a crystal vase balancing on the pelvic bone and between the hips, and you're filling up this crystal vase golden, luminous, life-giving energy. You can fill that vase right up, right at the top. And then you can even imagine that you have a lotus flower delicately balancing on the surface of that liquid. And as you breathe this golden energy up, it starts to open. It starts to unfurl petal by petal, layer by layer. Beautiful, exquisite lotus flower just opening, 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 opening. Receptive, alive, sensing, feeling. And so this is the way that we can take our awareness down from the habitual way of really being in our heads all the time, as opposed to being in our beautiful breathing bodies. So that is a very easy and accessible way of starting to feel the body, starting to feel the energy that comes through our bodies, from the earth, through our wombs, through our hearts.
Beautiful.
So you can do that a few minutes every day. Again, I've got beautiful music that can really support us to do that. And remember, what we imagine, the mind doesn't know the difference between what we imagine and what we're actually experiencing. So when we imagine these things, using the breath, using visualization, the body actually gets to experience it as though it were really happening. So you really have roots going all the way down into the center of the earth. The body doesn't know the difference between what you're imagining and what you're actually experiencing. That's why it's so powerful, these little enactments, very powerful. And then the last one, to balance the two, once you've brought in the masculine, you've dropped your energy down and you've tapped into the earth through your womb space, you can just very gently sit for a few minutes again, closing the eyes. And then we just gently turn the head to the left and then to the right. And I'm going to model it as to how slowly to go. And if you can, to keep going even slower. And you just turn it to the one side as much as is natural and easy, no forcing it, you don't have to push it. And you keep breathing. And then you turn the head all the way to the other side. Let the mouth be open and relaxed. Bring it back. So I'm just going to do it once. And once the head is back to center, you can slowly open your eyes. Just helps to balance the left and the right, masculine and the feminine. And again, you would do it a few times and you try and slow it down even more. And you notice where you might get a little bit stuck, or also where there's a tendency to jump. And then so beautiful, then you notice those places, and you can next time see if you can smooth it even more so that it's super, super, super smooth and progressive.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. It's so powerful. Wow.
It's powerful and it's so easy, isn't it?
Yes.
It's so accessible. Anyone can do this. And maybe you spend half an hour every morning doing this, especially in the beginning when you're really wanting to start accessing the body and playing with those two energies, the deep masculine and the deep feminine, and getting them to become lovers. Because probably in most people until now, they've been enemies, very polarized, very, very separate, and fighting when they do come together, often, power struggle. Here we're wanting them to come into lovemaking, into this exquisite dance, into beautiful balance. They are so exquisitely complementary of each other. And when we start to live from that place, everything changes. I mean, absolutely everything.
Yeah. Beautiful. I can feel the difference. It's so amazing. Yeah, I definitely feel connected, grounded, and open, at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank
And
you. This is
deeply
so
relaxed.
powerful. Yes. And deeply relaxed. Yeah.
It's a great pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know
So I'm happy to send 3 tracks for you to have to give
let's
the,
do it.
the
So I
viewers.
can,
And
I can
yeah,
share
you
it
can
with
share them. Because music really helps us to really feel the energy. You know, the music becomes that invitation.
Yeah.
And I would love to offer a movement class to all the viewers.
Yes, beautiful. Let people know how to find that. Like, what's the best way to find you? Maybe your website, maybe that class link. Like, how people find you?
So the easiest way to find me is on my website, which is www.dakinikali.com. Everything I offer is there. And then for the gift that I would love to offer, it's a bliss dance class. It's a 2-hour online class, so anyone in the world can access it. And you can access it over the next 2 months from the time of this interview. You can access it over the next 2 months, and there will be a link as well as a passcode that will enable you to get the 100% discount. So the class is free and complimentary.
Oh, this is so
generous.
This
is where we and I'd love to see you all there. And we do these practices, and they're very subtle, but they are so transformative. And this is what I love to offer the world, is enactment and embodiment and movement and music, rather than reinforcing even more the busy mind. Let's really bring the body online.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. So we're gonna drop all of your links so people will find you, people get to participate in your class. Thank you so much for your generosity, your wisdom, and bringing all of this practical ways of connecting so people can do it at home. They can look you up, they can join your class, but it's such a huge portal for a lot of people to reconnect to themselves. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you. It's such an honor.
Thank you, Olya. Thank you for inviting me. I've loved talking to you. I hope to come to Mexico one day and meet you in person.
Please do. Okay.
And you're welcome to come to Africa as well.
Thank
and
you.
anyone who wants to come to Southern Africa and is interested in coming here, they are welcome to contact me.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.